Welcome to a talk on IoT with the cost-effective Echo Flex by Amazon or the Pi boards, including Orange Pi or Banana Pi or the Raspberry Pi, with Alexa P. In this talk, we introduce MFA2 with CAC and IAC using CloudFormation templates and the use of Alexa P in the creation of early bird warning systems. An example of a hypothesized flood warning system is described in the Lilydale Regional Park in St. Paul, Minnesota. Would you like to continue with this presentation?
Yes.
You can say yes or no.
Yes.
The Echo Source is a USB-based power supply that can be combined with the Tomu for IoT use cases or alternatively, can power a Pi board for IoT with Amazon Alexa. Would you like to continue with this presentation?
Yes.
You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Tomu is an open-source USB stick computer with the ARM M0 MCU, allowing for 5 I/O inputs from analog sources, integrating sensors for IoT. The CAC or circuits as code allow for the description of the Tomu circuit as code with the machine genome, enabling customization with templates and transcription for the circuit, allowing evolutionary designs in circuit design and in reconfigurability. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
IAC or infrastructure as code allows for the use of CloudFormation templates for AI-assisted skill authoring with IoT sensor fusion with the EchoFlex SDK or Alexa Pi for skill authoring, with Lambda endpoints. Parameters in Alexa Pi include player and tokens required for an IAM-based authentication, with the parameters for AVS or device-specific skill rendering using an event-based framework, with a single skill authored for several devices, using the respective tokens. The next slide delineates the important functions of the event handling framework in AVS. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
A list of functions to be defined with a template, leading to the authoring of CloudFormation templates for the Alexa Pi code for any IoT application. Alexa Pi leads to a set of functions in Python with a callback from the Alexa API, available for execution on any at-edge device. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
The per-observer pattern is a pattern introduced by the author in reactive design to add persistence of selected variables to a database with optional versioning, much like a debugger. This enables an automated persistence of objects in memory to a database such as the DynamoDB with the appropriate lambdas in the case of Alexa skills for IoT. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
To quote from AWS documentation on templates, AWS CloudFormation provides a common language for you to model and provision AWS and third-party application resources in your cloud environment. AWS CloudFormation allows you to use programming languages or a simple text file to model and provision, in an automated and secure manner, all the resources needed for your applications across all regions and accounts. This gives you a single source of truth for your AWS and third-party resources. An example of a genome from the book AWS and Automation by the author, using CloudFormation templates with a template and parameters as the genome, given a set of templates and a set of heuristics to choose them, as a mapping, as described in this book. Transcriptional mechanisms inspired by Cartesian genomic evolutionary computing defines code generation mechanisms based on CloudFormation templates. The above example illustrates IoT-based sensor uploads, automated to any set of sensors with the Tomu and the EchoFlex. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
In evolutionary computing, circuits are represented in a parametric representation as a simulated genome and evolve to meaningful computation. The Tomu is represented as CAC for transcription to IoT use cases, by CAC definitions analogous to IAC definitions, MAC, or manifold as code is the definition of manifolds of products, for example as code, in 3D representations, with a parametric genome, together, with MAC, IAC and CAC are 3D printable solutions, represented by the Y Combinator and lambda calculus. The central question is if a 3D printer can itself be printed from a 3D printer, and if in a Gandhi-inspired economy, can 3D printing be a local enterprise? Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Let Tomu represent the graph with the nodes and vertices of the Tomu circuit. Then we have the set V of variables in Tomu that can be substituted with templates. We also define behavioral, creational and functional design patterns for circuits, allowing symbolic circuit analysis and genesis from circuit generators as code generators in CAC. V equals A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, for 5 sensor inputs to Tomu, and also the templates of 2-port design patterns, TP. We define a library of TP templates. Amplification as current mirrors are a needed template for addition to IoT designs for multi-sensor fusion IoT boards with Alexa Pi. USB substitution with Qi is another template to consider, which we call the FP or 4-port design patterns with Qi built in. With this we have a parametric genome of Tomu, TP, say, for the design of a multi-sensor for sensors, say, with a parametric model MP for each say, for the code generation of a mapping from say to TP, for integration and isomorphism to the resultant circuit. The resulting circuit can be readily converted to a layout using an automated program like AutoCAD Eagle. Mouser or Arrow has the tools for the purchase of the components needed in the PCB services. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Data gathered on the cloud can be processed by resident data mining applications for an early bird warning system, for disaster risk prediction and disaster event prediction, with heuristics for a global broadcast warning mechanism using the event API formulation and a cloud formulation. Early bird warning systems also include a whistle language revived from now extinct proto-musical languages of the Himalayan region, for repeated bird-inspired whistle sounds, usable to warn of disasters across long distances, in the lack of modern communications. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
In the present day, Lilydale Regional Park in St. Paul, Minnesota, the river Mississippi is monitored with a network of sensors and river cameras. While, with the advent of IoT technologies, image processing of river cameras remains a robust flooding monitoring technology, older sensor fusion technologies are hypothesized with this framework for cost-effective solutions, amenable to implementation in a range of geological domains. Carbon cloth-based sensors for level monitoring are integrated with Tomu computers and EchoFlex units. EarthCam is a network of live camera feed from cameras across the world. The St. Paul administration has several such camera feeds available for public viewing. It is proposed to use WISE outdoor wireless cameras as EarthCams for cost-effective natural disaster monitoring using the motion trigger detection systems and added AS technologies for flooding monitoring. In addition, the Sense2 board from Silicon Labs is proposed as an audio feed and folk sensor for forest and river sound streams, much like the EarthCams, and for atmospheric or river pollution monitoring. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
A manifold definition language defines the multifunctional design architecture. For an example, the manifold of the carbon cloth-based resistance sensors, which uses a preamplifier to convert impedance of the cloth to an analog voltage level. For I/O input, the manifolds are described, inspired by the X formulation of Soul machines in UI, UX and genomic representations, as in human OS, and STL or of rendering definitions from manifold topology to a mesh of polygons and the UV representation of projection space. Citation: Dr. Bheemaiah Anil Kumar. 2019. Singularity number 1 and MFA2. Singularitet near 1 und MFA2. 10.31224/osf.io/3ghkf. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
An AWS architecture diagram of the architecture of the IoT system for a hypothesized flood monitoring system at Lilydale Regional Park in St. Paul, Minnesota. A number of water level monitoring devices are integrated into a TOMU device. TOMU accepts up to 4 such sensors. Sense 2 IoT sensor boards can also be integrated with Bluetooth to an EchoFlex unit. The EchoFlex unit uses custom skills to gather data with lambdas coded to use TensorFlow models and quantum computing to data mean the data to create event risk data, used in a trigger heuristic to create an early bird alarm signal. The signal consists of mobile integrations with AWS Wavelength and email and proto-musical alerts. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can
Yes.
say yes or no.
Yes.
Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
A grid-based approach to A is using Wi-Fi and power, with an amateur IoT infrastructure that is reliable, fault-tolerant, and cost-effective is presented. CAC is proven useful to much of the planet, needing A as services for IoT fabrication. The TOMU is used as an example of Alexa Pi-based buoy in the design of IoT for predictive analytics and data mining. AI for Earth and IoT lead to informed planning towards better living with the elements. Would you like to continue with this presentation? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Future works involve the creation of cloud resident data mining for disaster risk prediction for landslides and several other classes of disasters using the same hardware infrastructure, as described in this paper. Other applications include audio stream-based data mining for PID systems and wildlife census and anti-poaching measures. The Shaktiman trademark is a proposed PSOC based on the Shakti RISC-V processor developed at IIT Madras, for and soak with integrated sensors, analogous to the Sense 2 board, an indigenous technology, to be developed. With this we conclude the presentation, leading the floor to the question and answer session. Thank you for listening to this talk. The presentation ends gracefully. All questions can be emailed to the author at the feedback address in the skill description.